TikTok, it's time to rock. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Sunday show, to the Ranking the Tracks show, to the 5150 Hubsters, Brad and the Rock Professor. Do you like that?
Yay! Yay! The Hubsters.
The hubbies. The hubbies, we'll call ourselves.
Hashtag 5150 Hub.
Herb.
I've been getting some great
Cool.
comments from people about that. They love that. They love it. They think it's fantastic for some reason, Brad and Simon. I don't know why.
I think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool.
I don't know. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Good to see you guys as usual. It's a pleasure to hang out with Brad and the Rock Professor. Sorry for being late, ladies and gentlemen. We were here before time, but you know we always get a little bit carried away in the green room. We do appreciate you hanging around and waiting for us. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, if you're watching on a replay, please do. Go and check out our friends as well on our community page and on our channels page. Go and please subscribe to them. I have been forgetting to ask you guys to do that. But if you can do that and share our links, please, with your friends as well, Brad and Simon, that makes a big effort for what we're trying to do here, isn't it?
Sure is.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yep. And get as many of your friends that love music and love what we talk about to subscribe as well. We want to try and get to that 10,000 mark. We're so close, but yet so far. So we need your help. You guys can help us get there.
You got it, bro. You got it. So we've got a few shout-outs that we have to do before we kick the show off, ladies and gentlemen. I suppose the first one, Brad, is that banner that we've got on there.
Most importantly.
Yeah. So can you mention that for us?
Happy birthday to our 5150 brother-in-arms, Simon Hosford. It's been a while. We miss you. I'm sure we'll have a show with you soon. I know you've been a busy boy, but I hope you're kicking back with your feet up, your little slippers on, little nightgown, you know, keeping warm in this winter weather with your beanie on. And happy birthday, brother. Happy birthday. Actually, I have visions of Simon Hosford walking around the house like Hugh Hefner. You know, in the robe. In the robe. And the slippers, yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, the things we don't want. That's it.
No, happy birthday,
Happy
Simon.
birthday, Simon.
And, an abundance of love and happiness to you, mate. All the best.
Yeah, hope you're lovely.
Yeah. I have to agree with you, Brad. There, we're fortunate enough to have Simon come on our channel, hosted a few shows with us, did a couple of specials, Simon, didn't he, with us as well. And if there's anything that our channel can do, Simon, for you and for any of your future projects, you know, this is your channel, this is your home as well, because you helped grow our channel, bro, and that means a lot to us.
Yeah, it does.
Look,
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as I'm concerned, he's still a co-host. He's just busy man.
You got it, brother.
Yeah, that's it. Simon.
I have a very clearly the major news this week has been the death of Tina Turner, aged 83. She died was it Wednesday? So clearly known as the Queen of Rock and Roll. I think you know, one of the great performers to come out of the 60s, and had a successful second career in the 80s, very successful second career in the 80s, having run away from Ike Turner with 50 cents and not much else. Just one of the preeminent female performers of our time, I think. So we mark her passing.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, rest in peace, Tina. What an amazing voice, hey? What an amazing.
Interestingly,
voice.
She's a year older than Bob Dylan, which puts something in perspective about how long she's been doing it. And It's interesting, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I agree too, guys. I think, she certainly deserves her place in rock and roll history. She's played with everybody. She's performed with a lot of the artists that we talk about and hold dearly, don't we, Simon and Brad? And in fact, she's been the crucial ingredient, that some of these albums or some of these performances have required, just off the top of my head, and I'll leave the Rock Professor to announce what we're going to do in relation to Tina, but in the top of my head, the Rolling Stones picked her icon, Tina Turner, to open for them in their 69 tour, purposely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's loads we're going to, but I think Andrew and I are going to do a tribute show to her in the next. Brad, I don't know, is it next week or not here?
Next week. Yeah,
next week. So next week we will do a proper full-on show about Tina Turner, because I think we ought to. She's one of the great original R&B greats, and so Andrew and I will be doing that next week. And,
it's great.
Because there's much to discuss with her. Much to discuss.
And I look forward to doing that, because we've done a few of the guys, haven't we? On the show, and if you aren't aware, ladies and gentlemen, we haven't sacked Brad. Brad's not leaving us because he hasn't been getting his 5 cents, that I promised him, or anything like that. Brad hasn't ditched us for another YouTube channel. Well, I hope not.
One with more clickbait.
That's what he told you.
Hey, Simon and Andrew, one with more clickbait,
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
I get it.
Right, okay.
No, so Brad, seriously, folks, Brad's not ditching us. He's got a gig out of state, which is going to take up the whole 2 days. So the Rock Professor and I, as he mentioned, we're just going to get together, hang out for an hour, share some stories that we've picked up over the years and some pictures of Tina Turner, talk about her. Come and join the party.
Yeah, you have to talk about. I mean, we ranked August not long ago, guys, and that had Tina Turner on it. Eric Clapton's album August, and Tearing Us Apart. It's one of my favorite songs on that album, and Tina's contribution to that was massive. And I think it was also, we might have even discussed that on the show at the time, how important it was to have her on the album, because that sort of put the public eye on Eric a little bit as well, because Tina was massive when that album came out.
So anyway, that's next week's, and just a small mention, this came out 20 years ago on Friday.
I can't
20 years ago. That's to me, that's bloody scary. That is. Look at that. 20 years ago that came out. Sure, it wasn't the day before yesterday. Wow.
I've had that from the day it came out. My son has been watching that from the day he was born. He still watches that now, once or twice a week minimum.
Yep. That, ladies and gentlemen, is education.
So that DVD set is probably one of the most influential DVD sets in my household here.
Fantastic.
Isn't it? I was thinking, wasn't it like one of the first kind of those kind of retrospective repackaging, it was, wasn't it? It's not my imagination. But,
it was a number one here in New Zealand. It was a number one. I remember breaking my neck to get it too. And, we need to do a review of that too, folks, on a Zoso show. We need to, certainly do a review.
100%.
Just in case we're running out of albums.
Rock Professor, I think you should do a shout out, because there's a couple of new names here in the chat.
Well, indeed, I've been saying hello. Yes, I've been saying hello in the chat. You'll be pleased enough, hopefully. So I will say hello to people in the chat. We'll go back. Johnny Heartbreaker, who's traveling in the US. Safe journey, Johnny, and have a good sleep. Hope you're able to. Jazz Thunder 50. Jim, good morning, Jim. How are you? Phil Byers, morning, Phil.
Phil.
Channel member, I think Phil is in green. So Ellen, of course. Good morning, Ellen. Hope you're well. Gret Zeppelin, Derek Clapton. Derek, you're joining us for the show. It's fantastic to see you. And we've got Gret Zeppelin. Where are the new? Holly, of course. Good morning, Holly. How are you? Got the mug. Yes, coffee mug. Some bloke called Brad Cook. Don't know who he is, but he's got a blue wrench, so better watch out. James Stewart. Good morning, James Stewart. I haven't seen your name before. I may not have been paying attention. So good morning to you, and thanks for joining. Hope you enjoy the show. Ellen Holly. And Paul Davis as well. Good morning to Paul Davis. Another name I don't recognise. So welcome, Paul. Nice to see you. Hope you enjoy the show too.
Yeah, thank you,
John
guys,
ZD 351.
Yeah.
John ZD 351. Good morning, John.
That's it.
I hope you're good. Hopefully I've got everybody. So if I didn't, apologies, but good morning to everyone. Thanks for joining.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's always good to get some new people joining us. If you guys haven't already subscribed to our channel, please do. Hit that subscribe button and that notification button. Brad and I and the Rock Professor, we subscribe back to every subscription we get too. So if you're trying to build your channel, you'll guarantee to get a sub.
Absolutely, yeah. 100%. That's the deal.
Yeah. We're all about sharing and caring here.
You got it, bro.
Yeah. So, guys,
you want to kick it off, brother?
Today's album. Have we got anything else we need to run over before we dive deep into?
Oh, look what I found! Look what I found! Look what I found! Hold on.
Look what I found. What did you
find?
Properly.
Hold on. Right. Hold on. Hold on. Don't
Here it comes.
Production.
Hold
on. Here it comes.
Here it comes. Here comes. Yes. Look at that. Don't worry. They'll never recognize it from our singing.
Hold on. We should talk about that too, because at some stage too, about how some channels are getting shows banned because they're showing pics.
Really?
I hope we don't get banned for. I hope we don't get banned for showing this, ladies and gentlemen. Check this out.
Okay, let's see here. Oh, Brad, that's real nice, man. Thank you. Brad saying it's great to see you slowly getting back on track. I wish you an abundance of success moving forward in all areas of your life, brother. Man, thank you, Brad. That really means a lot to me. Thank you. I appreciate that. And of course, in return, for you too. Always. Always. I know you've been through a lot. So it's great to see you as well back on track and kicking ass and taking names. And I understand that we might actually have a little chat on your show. So thank you for the invitation, and I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be fun. I don't know, Brad, if you want to share with our community here, our friends, just the name of your show online where people can find out certainly about your guests, but also about what you guys are all chatting about, what you're doing. And Brad, as we all know, is and if you don't know, he's a super talented musician, amazing guitar player, and from Australia. And we've had him on many times and had some wonderful chats, and just a super warm-hearted, talented dude. Jimmy, yes, I believe that is the 5150 show, but let's see if Brad will chime in and leave a link. And in the meantime, I've got Tech, Jimmy, and
Whoa! Whoa! Look at that!
There you go. So from the man himself, he's actually I didn't expect him to say that, and I was just logged on to together.co as I do every now and again to watch him perform and have chats to people, and it's really fun to watch. He used to do a similar sort of thing, Andrew, on Instagram Live through the pandemic. And so that's what he does on together.co, but he does it very well. And just threw up a nice comment for him, and he read it out and mentioned, because we've been trying to get him on the show, and he committed to it online. So thank you, Philip, and look forward to hearing from you, mate, when you're ready. And we're more than happy to share and care here and promote and do the best we can to spread the word and the love.
Thank you, bro, for keeping in contact with him and thinking about our small community here, and getting a big player, major player like that onto our channel will be
amazing.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
just for anyone who isn't familiar with who he is, that's Philip Sace. We'll attach links later somewhere in the chat or something like that, so you can, when we finish today's show, you can go check it out. Check out his music on Spotify or any streaming platform that you use. And he's also got a YouTube channel with all his film clips and music on there as well. And a hell of a nice guy. So you've got to check him out if you don't know who he is. He's an amazing blues rock player.
And check out our show that we did a couple of months ago, ranking one of his albums.
100%. Yeah,
not to blow our own trumpet, but that's right.
That was a good show, and Philip actually helped us promote that on his Instagram and everything. So yeah, we got some really good views on that. So thank you, Philip, for that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And great news.
Hey, Robert. Yeah, awesome. Thank you, brother, for sharing that. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Anyway, let's crack on.
Yeah, well,
crack on.
from one blues rock legend to another, Eric Clapton.
Oh, smoother than a panther shooting a backgammon.
Oh God, you guys!
Lovely.
Yeah. People ask me why I keep coming back every week, and I said it's because of the guys I work with. They're just a barrel of laughs every minute. Yeah.
Oh dear, we hope so.
Oh God, you guys. Yeah. So this week I picked Eric Clapton's first solo album, Eric Clapton, self-titled. It was released in August 1970. Producer was Delaney Bramlett, and engineer was Bill Halverson. The photographer who took the album cover stuff was Barry Feinstein, and it was recorded, I believe, in a few sessions in 69 and 1970. So it was released in August 1970, but they started recording in November 1969 at London's Olympic Studios, and they recorded more sessions, 2 sessions more. I think one was in 1970 at Village Recorder Studio in LA, West LA, and then in March the same year in Island Studios in London. The album had 2 singles released off it, After Midnight, which is J.J. Cale, a cover of J.J. Cale's wonderful song After Midnight, and Blues Power. Eric Clapton, the album, entered the charts at 77 and went as high as 13 in a 30-week run. So it was pretty successful for his first solo outing. Eric Clapton, the album, was, I guess, was seen as a chance for Delaney and Bonnie to return a favor to him. That, he went out and toured with them. He appeared on a live album in 1970, in spring of 1970. So they felt this was a good way to repay the favor to Clapton, was to join him for this. But basically, Bonnie was on backing vocals. Delaney he produced the album and played rhythm guitar on the album. I think there's also stellar backing musicians on there, like Leon Russell, Jim Gordon, Bobby Keys, Rita College, Stephen Stills, and of course Bobby Whitlock. There's the rhythm section would soon, of course, end up becoming Eric Clapton's disguised band called Derek and the Dominoes later this year. So in 1970, a large number of the musicians, like I said, had worked with Clapton on the Delaney and Bonnie record. Delaney and Bonnie opened for Blind Faith. This is how this relationship sort of started. So Clapton saw them opening for Blind Faith, who was obviously Clapton was part of that. And I think Clapton, this is all off the top of my head, guys, Clapton was in Blind Faith. he saw, like, in his own words, I think he saw them as he was in a corridor, and it was, he was out one door and into the next door with Delaney and basically Bonnie. So that was how that relationship started, and it became a wonderful relationship. I think in an interview in 2006, Clapton recalled that he was really happy making this album and was really pleased with the results of the recording sessions. He did have one thing that he said he wasn't happy about, which he said, the only thing I don't like about the album is my voice, because it sounds high and young, which Clapton disliked. And he always wants to sound like an older blues guy, I think, for that reason. Look, guys, I've got a lot more to say about this album at this stage because a lot of it's in the content of the songs. But I think this is a very important career-defining moment for Eric. This album is, and it certainly showed him that moving forward in the future as a solo artist would prove to be the most successful move he could make. So this was it was in between things. He'd collaborated with the musicians I just discussed. He'd written some amazing music with them and decided that, I guess he was at a loose end. He released a solo record. Guys, you got anything you want to add to the record? The description there?
Yeah, I'll throw something, and I think the Rock Professor definitely will have something. I think for me, what really sort of drew me more and more to this album, Simon and Brad, and I keep making this point, it's when you get information about an album that you've been listening to and it sort of puts you into a different perspective when you hear it. I love the fact that Clapton said that, he was in Cream, he was in that band with Cream, but didn't feel like he was in a band. And it wasn't, and then when he went into Blind Faith, because Ginger Baker was there and that relationship with Ginger Baker, and he wanted it to be a band, but couldn't quite sort of get into it. And then when he went on tour with Delaney, as you mentioned, and then saw these Southern folks smoking reefers and drinking Southern whiskey in the back of the buses and laughing and playing guitars, he was drawn to that, and he talks about that in his biography, and that was his first experience right through his career of actually being in a band type situation, Simon, and feeling that camaraderie that's so important. And I think you're right. This Payback situation that you mentioned in your introduction goes both ways, certainly, doesn't it, with these bands, because Delaney and Bonnie are all over this album, Simon.
Yeah, they are indeed. Yeah, and I think you're right. It's an interesting point, isn't it? That if you go back to the Yardbirds, he was sort of separate from the Yardbirds in a way, and when he was with John Mayall's Blues Breakers, featuring Eric Clapton. So clearly, it's not quite the same. And Cream was three very strong individuals. I think part of their greatness is that the fact they pulled against one another probably quite hard. And so wouldn't necessarily think of that as being the Three Musketeers type thing at all, would you? So I think you're right. I think it's the first time he's actually felt like he was in a band, properly with people just hanging out. The other interesting thing I thought is that it's released in August 70, and in September 70 he went off to record Layla. So not hanging about. It's not typical 1970s work ethic. It's not hanging about. It's straight off to the next thing with the band that was going to become the Dominos. But yeah,
it's funny you guys mentioned that it's the first time he felt like he was in a band, and he did a solo record with the band and called it Eric Clapton instead of a band. So it's kind of a bit bizarre to put it that way, but it's exactly right. Yeah.
You're 100% right about that. And before we get into the songs too, I because we love guitars here on this show. There was one point that I picked up that I wasn't aware of. We knew, obviously, and we know that Clapton's playing a Fender Stratocaster on this album, as opposed to Gibson's. It's the first time
obvious,
he's playing,
yeah.
Brownie, and it's on the cover. You can't mistake it, and we'll show you some pics. But what's really interesting is I read somewhere, and I can't remember who said it. It will come to me, and I promise I'll make a reference of this person because I think their point was interesting. Playing with Delaney gave him the confidence to play Fender's Simon and Brad. He'd heard the band's album, Big Pink. He'd heard, but he wasn't apparently in a position to know how to play that kind of music, Simon, because he'd been playing Marshall Stacks. and Gibson's.
Mm.
So
And-
going to and going into Delaney and touring with Delaney around Scandinavia and all that gave him the confidence to pull out a Strat.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of Strat sound, if you're in quite a large, if you're in quite a big band with horn sections and backers and stuff, the amount of space you've got to fill up is a lot less. Therefore, but you've still got a bit of cut through. Therefore, I think I know a lot of disco bands used Les Pauls and stuff, but Eric was used to filling up a lot of space because there weren't many other musicians around, or he was the featured musician. So I think that the Fender fits in with that band ethos better, probably in this context for him.
You got it, because he's playing, as you said, Rock Professor, with other instruments, and and it sits better in the mix as opposed to Brad pulling out his Les Paul and cranking those Marshalls up.
The
beer dispensers.
The other thing that is quite fascinating, and it's in his biography somewhere. I remember reading this part around this point in his career. He would write songs and leave them in as an unfinished state. He would complete a song as little as he could. He'd go to the band that he relied heavily on to finish the song, because he wanted their stamp on the music. And it's obvious when you listen to this, and then you listen to like the later record, and even say, for example, some of these musicians worked on George Harrison's All Things Must Pass, and you can hear their stamp on each album. It's there. You can hear, if you start listening to each musician, you go, there, yep, that's that. You start picking them like that. So I found that was very interesting. Obviously, I think maybe as the years progressed, he changed that. But in this point in his career, he was heavily on leaning on the musicians he was working with to finish a song. So he'd write a song and not complete it.
No, good point, because Leon Russell sees it himself too, that him and Delaney taught Eric how to finish a song, how to write songs quickly.
Yeah. Just a couple of points from the chat. Jim, just under 50, also points out that he'd also played on All Things Must Pass and the Howling Wolf sessions as well in this period. So being prolific and busy. And Derek says that he'd mixed Eric Clapton. Derek said Eric had mixed Gibson and Fender guitars live with Delaney and Bonnie, but stuck to the Strat on the album.
Yep.
So that's interesting. Yeah. Thanks for those guys. That's really good points.
Yeah. Great feedback, guys. And if anyone here in the chat would like to contribute to what we do, put it in there. We'll read it out. Simon's really good at picking them out because he actually does read the chats there in the side constantly. He's good at it. So
And we're just fans, folks. We're just fans talking about the music too. So we just want to qualify that.
Yeah.
So don't shoot us down if we miss something. We'd love to have your input there. So please.
Can I say one thing though before you kick off the first song, bro?
Sure.
I was alerted to it earlier today when we did the 5150 show with Jimmy and John and Les Paul. Happy Memorial Day to our brothers and sisters in the United States of America. We are patriots here on the show. Simon's November date is an important date that we celebrate for the Armistice Day. Anzac Day is an important date for Australia and New Zealand. So to the servicemen and servicewomen of the United States who have given their lives for freedom, we salute you, and also the people that are serving today in the armed forces in the name of freedom, we salute you too.
Well said.
Well done, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, good stuff.
Yes, always good to acknowledge that. Always good to. Okay, so gentlemen, we've got two sides of music to get through. Shall we start?
Yeah, kick it off, brother.
Begin.
All right. So the Eric Clapton album starts off. First track. It's interesting to say it like that. It's like just Eric Clapton. That's who was named the album. It's like the picture of him on the album cover. It's like that's all he cared about, is just getting the music out. Didn't even care about calling it something. Just put my name on it, would you? Just get it out. So the first track is
everyone's
Slunky.
first album has to be called by them, doesn't it? It's their eponymous first album. It's always, that's how it works. Or unless you're Peter Gabriel, in which case all his albums are called Peter Gabriel.
Yeah. Right. So Slunky. I think it's a very interesting opening track for an album, especially for your first solo record after you've been in many successful acts and bands. But it sounds to me like a really fun instrumental that was happening, a jam that was happening, and the sound engineer's gone shoot and pressed record, and they've mixed it for the album. That's what it sounds like to me. We hear some fantastic straight drumming, the piano playing and saxophone playing. It's all very cool. All along to like a very hypnotic straight bass line. There's not a lot of movement going on. About halfway through, Clapton starts soloing. He's got a very bitey guitar tone, guys. Feel, lots of feel and emotion out there. He sounds like he's having a ball. Actually, he sounds like he's really having a lot of fun. Again, I'm still baffled. I mean, we talk about album orders and the running order of albums here on the channel a lot. I'm baffled as to why you think this is worthy of it, like opening an album. But it's great to hear the jam. I think there's some fantastic playing in it. And it sounds like fun. And for that reason, I'm giving it 8 out of 10, gents. Who's next?
The Rock Professor.
Rock Professor.
Well, I have a theory.
Yeah.
I think that for me, this is kind of like, it's like an overture to the album. I think it's something of a instrumental. Clearly we could talk about Eric singing, but clearly I think that it's like an overture to the record. It's like you say, this is not like Cream, okay? This is not like the Blues Breakers. It's not like the Yardbirds. It's not like everything I've done before. This is a different vibe, different feel, and it's like, for me, it's like an overture to it. So I think it's got that kind of, it's two halves, isn't it? It's got the first half is like sort of Roadrunner, Junior Walker Roadrunner vibe, and the second half is a more sort of funky groove, really. But both things, the first half is horns driven, and the second half is that kind of, band funky style. Eric does some soloing, but it's not pushed up in the front of the mix, is it? It's kind of laid into the mix, and and I think that's what it does. It is a pointer to what the album is going to be, in terms of style, and also in terms of how things are presented within mixes and things like that. And where Eric's going to sit in those mixes, and how his soloing is presented with it, as much more as part of the band thing, as a pointer, as I say. I think it's as you say, it's got that very kind of, it's quite a thin sound, isn't it, on the Strat kind of thing, but as we've discussed, that's where he is right now on this album. So I think that's what it does. I think that's why they chose it as an opening track. I could be wrong, but that's my theory about it.
That's a good point.
I gave it a 7.5 out of 10, but not a skip. As I say, as a present, I talk a lot about programming and setting up and blah blah blah. I think this does that, but in an instrumental way, not in a singing way. But it leaves, the singing on the next track becomes a feature. Then, what you're going to do next. So, Andrew.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think it's an interesting opening track. You're right, Brad. It did start off with a jam with Leon Russell in particular being the main catalyst in the studio. And then obviously we've got Bobby Keys with his tone on the horns, as the Rock Professor said, coming through. Unmistakable Bobby Keys tone, isn't it? It's him. And then you've got that echo-drenched guitar from Clapton coming through in the mix with Bobby, Jim Gordon and Carl Rattle, providing that driving rhythm coming through. I like that. I promise I won't talk a lot about the other mixes. This is a good mix, but there are better mixes of this song. And I'll only mention the mixes twice. So that's the first time, and I promise I'll only mention it a second time, because that's not what we're here for. We're here to talk about the original one. I agree with the Rock Professor. I think it's an interesting choice. But certainly it was the beginning, it was the statement of that new sound for Clapton, wasn't it? And if you thought you were going to get Marshalls cranked after this song, if you were listening to this album in 1970, Brad, you are sadly mistaken, aren't you? You know, this is the beginning of that new sound, which, you know, today, and I bloody know because I'm admin on 3 or 4 Facebook groups. Even to this day, you've got people that won't listen to Clapton from 1970 onwards, you know, because of this tone on this album. So, yeah, strange and interesting point. And probably we can talk about that as we go through more ranking the songs. I am going to defend the Jam persona, because we spoke about this a couple of other times recently, guys, that in 1970 having a jam track wasn't unusual for an album in 1970, Simon, even if it was only a couple of minutes long. So I just think what's really interesting, Brad, is opening the album with this. So look, you know, I've seen some of the rankings there. Sometimes a skip. Yeah, I admit sometimes I'd skip it. 7.5 out of 10, Brad.
That's fair. We're all on the same page. You know. But so
I think you. Sorry, Brad. I mean, I think you've got to remember in 1970, you know, that the future is wide open, isn't it? To quote Tom Clancy, you know, it wasn't. You know, nobody said you couldn't do something. Nobody said you had to do one particular style. Nobody said you had to do anything. It's just like, what am I going to do next? You know, everybody's moving forward as artists. Eric's no different. You know, Layla's just down the road. You know, Blind Faith has just been, you know, he's figuring out who he is as an artist and who, you know, what to do. And I think, you know, this is part of that journey, you know, and you have those waypoints called albums in your journey as an artist, you know, and we did August a few weeks ago, which is another kind of waypoint on that journey. And I think that it's, you know, that's what you got to remember. You know, nobody said, oh, we can't do that. There's no record companies going, oh, I wouldn't release that. That's not really Eric Clapton. Or there's Morning Lightning Strikes. Welcome. Thank you so much. You know, so I think it's important to, you know, to remember what's going on at the time of those, you know, when people are recording. So there's no, you know, you can do what you want, can't you? In a way that I think you wouldn't be pigeonholed in a way that you would be now. You know, people trying to pigeonhole. There was no pigeon to hold.
Interesting points. I think you're right with the, you know, it's like a bit of a statement maybe as a transition to this is the music I'm doing now. But to contradict a little bit, we get to the next song.
Yeah. You got it, brother.
Yeah. So for me, Bad Boy. So for me, now we're talking. This should have been the opening track, I reckon. I really think this should have been the opening track.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's just my opinion. I think it would have been a great opener over Slunky. I thought Slunky might have gone in as like the end of side one or second last song or something like that. But now we're talking. Lovely intro. So fantastic drumming on this song. And I've got to say, if Eric wasn't keen on his vocal, I think maybe he's just being a little bit biased, because I think it's a great vocal from Eric on this track. He's really pushing himself vocally. He's got a lot of soul in his voice. It's not necessarily, it's like he's developing, and you can hear it in his voice. His voice doesn't sound like he does in 24 Nights, but he sounds great for that period in his life. And I don't, he beats himself up a little bit too much about it, I think. There's some fantastic musicianship in the whole song. I really enjoy hearing the keyboard parts. There's some great biting guitar tones and playing from Eric. His playing on this song is so smooth and laid back. Like there's a lot of finesse in his lead guitar playing. I love the song. I kind of wish this song, he played it a lot more through his live career. I'm not sure whether he did play this a lot or not, guys. I'm not 100% sure whether he did it, and I'm not familiar with when he did do it. But that from the, for example, 24 Nights, why didn't he do it this song there? If he did, well, maybe I'm wrong. I have to give this song 10 out of 10. It's never a skip for me, gents. Simon.
Good.
Yes, interesting point about that, about whether it's should be the opener or not. It's well, in a sense, it is the opener. Isn't it? If you've got an overture, then you have the first thing as the main event. I don't know how many. Of course, there's things like how many other songs have you got and things like that. Because this is good, by the way. This is not a particularly long album. It hasn't got loads of tracks on it. I don't know how much else they had in the can. Sometimes it's about expediency as much as anything else, isn't it? We need to fill up an extra 5 minutes, boys. Oh, I've got this. It'll work. So, but yeah, I mean, it's got, okay, what you've talked about is that integration of sound. And it's got horns, organ, piano. It's got and clearly all that stuff has to be integrated. And I think that it is, it's beautifully integrated on this. I think I like it's a wah-wah intro, isn't it? They do that kind of wah-wah intro at the beginning, and I think that nice brass break. I think we talk about the brass quite a lot on this album because there's lots of really good brass playing. I love that as a kind of those underneath it, that we just hear the horns swelling underneath. That's a lovely sound and beautifully done. I think that the solo, clearly, as I said on the first track, it's kind of mixed back into the mix a bit. It's not kind of pushed quite forward in the way that he would have done previously, but nevertheless, a great second opening track. And I gave it 9 out of 10, but never a skip. Yeah. Andrew.
Yeah, outstanding. And great comments from everybody in the chat as usual too. Thank you. We always appreciate that. You guys are awesome. Thank you for supporting what we're trying to do here and celebrate this great music. That's what we're about. Look, I have to agree with my co-host. I think it's a great number. I've always argued and said in my mind too, Brad, I've got to agree with you. That they should have opened with this track. Great vocals, as the Rock Professor said. You got a wah-wah there, so Clapton clearly isn't scared to pull the wah-wah out for the Strat. Had been playing it live, obviously, so he was used to it. Simon, I really like the fluid style that Clapton has on the guitar solo on this. It's unusual when you compare this solo to anything that happened beforehand. It's absolutely unusual. It's, and I'm trying to put myself back in the mind of a 1970 person listening to this album. When I went through a couple of times listening to it, I'm really familiar with the album, like a lot of us are. But I like the fluid style that he's using, where he's trying to connect the notes a little bit more, Brad, as opposed to just making the notes happen and then having that feedback, which you can lean onto as a guitar player sometimes when you're playing a Fender, as the Rock Professor knows, and a Tweed amp. You got nothing to hide behind.
Nope. That's right.
No.
You said it in the intro, you go, the notes have to connect. And Clapton as a young cat is clearly doing that on this track. I'm giving this a 9 out of 10, Brad.
Oh, that's good. I'm agreeing with your scores, even though I'm 10 out of 10.
That's okay. That's okay. That's all right.
I think it's a great song. So the next song, Lonesome and Long Way From Home. Now, the integrating of like Gordon, all these other musicians that he's playing with. I hear this song sounds like something that could have come straight off of George Harrison, All Things Must Pass record, in my opinion. If you go back and listen to it. Very colourful musical song. You can hear a lot of joy with Clapton. He's singing. He sounds like he's loving every moment of recording. The process I'm talking about, the way he's tracking everything, like he just sounds like he's really into it. His vocal's great. Again, he's stretching his vocal cords. put here. Drumming from Gordon, I really love his feel on this song. I really enjoy the guitar solo, the wah pedal, the musicianship, the backing vocals, the melody. It's all wonderful, and I think it's a really well written song. And this one's written by Bramlett and Russell, isn't it? Yes.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
it's a beautiful song, and I have to give. Oh, sorry, I've just lost my rankings now. 9.5 out of 10. I gave it, guys. Simon.
Yeah. I think it's a great example of, he starts off with a guitar riff, and then he's joined by the brass, the bass, the drums. So the integrated band comes in, and I think that I think his singing is developing on this, isn't it? I would say. I think he's kind of developing a different thing. You can see where he's going to go with it, and by the another few years, and he's a great vocalist, and can he's really confident in his voice. I would say not quite so confident on this track, on this album as well. Kind of there's a bit of tentativeness I detect in the singing. Not that it's bad singing. I think it's actually fine as a as a thing, but I think he's clearly he feels that that kind of I'm still being a bit tentative with my voice and being a singer and stuff within the band. I think it's got some great bass playing. I think that the backing singers are fantastic. Rita Coolidge and various, who else we got on. I'm gonna go and look because I need to name check them, but I mean, Bonnie Bramlett and all those, Rita Coolidge, and amazing singing, and amazing backing up of Eric on these things, which I think makes them in a way, supports him, that backing vocals, sort of the answering and the singing in the back, And one thing I noticed that his singing sounds quite a lot like George Harrison on this. You mentioned that All Things Must Pass thing. I kind of picked up on that sort of vibe as well. But yes, 9 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. It's lovely. I like the integrated sound, and I think it's quite for the times. You mentioned the band, the first band album, that, and that integrated sound and that warm, is really nicely done. So I really enjoyed this record. I thought it was great. So 9 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. Andrew.
Yeah, it's an interesting song. As Brad said, folks, written by Bramlett and Russell, originally for King Curtis. He was going to record it, but didn't like his vocals on it. And when Clapton apparently heard the song, he thought, "Oh, I'm going to grab it and put it on my album." And obviously did. Smart move by Bramlett, of course. Been involved in the music industry for a while. Knew that if a key major artist was going to record a couple of songs, Brad and Simon, it's ka-ching, isn't it? So, yeah, it's rock and roll. One thing I like about the wah on this, and I was alerted to this maybe 10 years ago, and I think I read it somewhere, and they were analysing Clapton's wah. And for the life of me, folks, if I had the reference, I've been trying to look for it, because we're all about sharing references here. I'll promise I'll look for it, but I do remember it. It had something to do with analysing Clapton's wah sound over the year. And on this one here, what Clapton's doing with the wah is that he's using the wah in quite a subtle way, as opposed to a direct way that he's normally using it, and that he's been using it on the song before this. And he got that technique off Wah Wah Watson, a Motown session guy, which I gather Jimmy Page was kind of doing the same thing, Brad, with the wah, leaving the wah on, as opposed to pumping it, to try and get that subtle sound that only a guitar player with a wah can understand, if you know what I mean. And I like that. I like the fact that Clapton, even back then, Simon, was trying to experiment even with a basic setup. Makes sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, absolutely. We have a question from the audience. I think Lightning Strikes asked, was it a Fender Champ like it was on Layla, or was it I don't know what
that was that they used on this album?
Yeah.
I suspect so. Again, I can't confirm that. He may have even. Oh, no, he definitely didn't use the pig nose. The pig nose amps were brought in during the Layla session, so it may have been the Fender Champs. I can't confirm that, but I love the fact that Clapton, as a young cat, Brad, is still trying to experiment even with that wah. I love that. And originally I would have given this song, Brad, 8 out of 10. But because he's been doing that, it's worth a point. It's 9 out of 10, never a skip.
Oh, Brad's on mute. You're on mute, Brad. You have to unmute yourself. Otherwise, it's sign language.
There you go. Sorry, guys.
Hooray!
I was listening and I was talking. I turned my camera off and mic off because I just had a dry throat cough and I needed to get myself a drink. So I got myself a Coke Zero just to get that fuzzy sort of feeling in my throat.
Coke Zero.
Sorry, guys. Yeah. Anyway, so we're up to After Midnight.
We are.
Yes. And a wonderful version of this with that up-tempo shuffle or sort of march sort of beat that's going there from Gordon. We know Eric's appreciation of JJ Cowell, and I think this is a very colourful version of the song. His vocals great. The backing vocals are fantastic. The guitar playing, of course, it's melodic. That it's great, that feel, again, Clapton's feel. A lot of finesse on this album. But when I say finesse, it's not like he's trying to play like he was showing off and showing his chops. He's playing with finesse to really suit and mold the lead lines into the song. And I really enjoy the biting Fender tone on this. It's got a real sting in that guitar solo. It's really stinging like a, the best way to describe it's like a bee sting. It's right in there. And I know this song was really successful for him. It was a single and it became pretty iconic for him. I'm not sure. I think this is more iconic for Clapton and JJ Cowell. Am I correct there? Or am I incorrect? Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was more iconic for him. And I like that it was released as a single. And I understand why they picked it because it's a really, really great song the way he's done it. And I specifically like the high-pitched woos that Eric does through the song in the vocal. I think it's fantastic. And for that reason alone, I think I have to give it 10 out of 10. It's never a skip, guys.
Yep.
Yeah, it's become a staple, isn't it? It's become a staple of his, through the years. He played this a lot, this song. Interestingly, Holly said it was a lot faster than she remembered. The reason for that is that the original version of it from 1966 is at this tempo. And then when JJ Cale recorded it on Naturally, 71, I think, he slowed it right down. And then Eric followed suit. But this version, Eric will have heard it. There's a variety of stories about where he heard it from. But he would have heard the original 66 version, which is pacey like this, absolutely, which is why it's so fast in the tempo. So yeah, it's quite fast. The thing I noticed about it was that basically it's got no drums on it. It's got a tambourine. The tambourine is the rhythm. It really drives it along, and that kind of Motown, almost Motown passage. Motown's great records are always punctuated by a tambourine to the front, and this is so great backing singing as well. I love the backing singing that on this. Really, really makes it as a song. And as you said, kind of very passionate playing from Eric as well on the solo. Really good. So I too gave it a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, it's pretty hard not to, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? I'm looking at everyone else's comments here. JJ Cale's sparse, shuffling guitar style and that soft, haunting vocals were the epitome of that laid-back sound in the early 70s, and Clapton loved it because of that. It meshed into that whole Big Pink project, Brad and Simon, it just dovetailed perfectly into what he was trying to do as a solo artist. I think this is a remarkable song. You guys have said why it's remarkable. I won't repeat it. The guitar solo, the vocals, the sincerity coming through. It's everything that you want from an artist, isn't it? Brad, you're right. This song made money for JJ Cale. You know, we got it. Fair is fair. You know, Clapton put this song on the charts for him, and you know, JJ Cale always acknowledged that. You know, even right through the Crossroads festivals when they used to get together and jam a couple of times. You know, and when JJ Cale gate crashed, the 2009 US tour that Clapton had, you know, it's fantastic the rapport that those guys had, the way that they looked at each other on stage. I loved it, and I love it. Great songwriter. And we often talk about this, don't we, too, Brad and Simon, that some of the greatest songwriters you've never heard of. Justin Townes, Earl, Townes Van Zandt, you know, these guys, you know, that lived the lifestyle. JJ Cale did.
Yeah.
You know?
It's really nice, isn't it, that you choose an unknown artist to cover them, and you know, because I think he was pretty on his uppers, JJ Cale. He hadn't had much success, but I need to find a few dollars rolling into his account on account of Eric's cover of it. It's really good. Yeah,
it's a wonderful version, and as the Rock Professor said, I love all of Eric's versions of this song. I love them all. It's a lovely song. It's a beautiful song. I've Brad scored this. I haven't given it a measly 10.
Oh, come on.
A measly 10. It's not often you hear that, is it? It's not often you hear that. A measly 10.
Jeez, I tell you what.
Okay, boss. Okay, boss.
I think, Simon, we could be out of a job next week if we keep going the way we're going. We're upsetting the boss.
He'd be doing Tina on his own in a minute.
Yeah, Holly's right. JJ Cale from Tulsa, that Tulsa sound. Yep. You know, and when we do, there's a couple of more albums that Clapton did in the 70s where the Tulsa sound's evident. What is it? What's the you know, the one where he's sitting on the back with the Marshall, not with the Marshall, with the Music Man amps. What's that? With Lay Down Sally. What's that album? Oh.
No reason.
Come on,
to
you
cry.
Clapton nuts. You should know that.
Jim will know.
Oh.
Where's Jim?
Oh. Okay. Oh, I can't remember.
Well, you go and think about it, Andrew, and I'll start with the next track.
Carry on, brother.
Yeah.
Sorry for diverting you away from your show. Sorry.
Look, it's our show.
Backless. Derek's got it. Backless is the one.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Yeah, my goodness.
See,
But,
Eric knows his own albums.
I always, for some reason, these 70s albums, the names kind of escape me unless it's Eric Clapton, like this one. I'm joking.
They're all called Eric Clapton. No, anyway.
All right, so the next song, it's a lovely Clapton written song called Easy Now. The acoustic sounds beautiful on this. I'm hearing George Harrison influence on this song. I'm sorry, guys, if you don't hear it, but some beautiful backing vocals. It does sound to me like Eric's doubled his vocal here in parts, or for the majority, and especially through the verses. I love the melody. It's very catchy. It's a lovely strum-along type song. And I think maybe Clapton, could have recorded this with a whole band as well, and it would sound amazing as well. But it sounds great in this raw form, the way he's done it. I could imagine hearing this song on All Things Must Pass. That's, it certainly fit there, and I could even hear George Harrison singing it, even a duet with Eric Clapton. That would have been a beautiful duet. I have to give this song 9 out of 10. I love this song. It's a great, great song. Simon.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I wrote very George Harrison on it. I completely agree with the beautiful. It's one of those things about these early 70s records, and we mention it quite a lot, I'm going to mention it again, is how beautifully the acoustic guitars are recorded. You know, how people understood how to record an acoustic guitar. You know, so that it sounds fantastic. I love the Beatlesque harmonies. I think Beatlesque harmonies is what I'm going with as a description. I think they're beautifully done, and it's a beautiful melody and a beautiful song, and it's 9 out of 10 for me. And never a skip. Absolutely, yeah. And
Yeah,
the perfect place for it. The perfect place for it on this album. You know, track 5. You've had the sort of band things. You've had the instrumental. You know, now we're just branching out and saying, well, we can do other stuff as well. So yeah, really nice. Good. Sorry, Andrew. Off you go.
Yeah, we're all on the same money. Crappy's offering a 10 out of 10 too. It's an underrated love song. It's beautiful. It's just got Clapton, obviously. It's so underrated, in my opinion. You know, it's better than Wonderful Tonight. It's a better song. It's a better love song. You know, which 100%. Came out how many years? About 6 years later. You know, underrated song. Go and listen to it if you haven't checked it out. If you're watching on a replay, it's worth it. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, it's a great song.
Yeah.
All right, so we come to the last song of side 1, Blues Power. I love this song. I love the way it's got that tinkering sort of at the start, and then it leads into Eric singing and leading the song off. Like, it's got a little bit of tinkering, and then all of a sudden it comes straight in. Great vocal delivery from Eric Clapton. This is a killer blues track. Catchy melody and a catchy chorus. There's some great playing from the whole band. Like, they're really smoking on this song. Clapton plays the blues wonderfully, as we know, and this song's no exception. There's some great playing on it. He plays the Strat, I think, in the position 1, which is the rear pickup on this one. That's what I'm hearing to my ears anyway. It sounds like that. I like the key change part in the middle of the song. There's some wonderful guitar licks there from Eric. The highlight for me is the drum fill, though. It really gets your head swinging side to side. Like, you know, you can't. It's a really sludgy, bluesy feel, and I love it. I reckon it's a great way to end side 1, and it's a killer track. I gave it 10 out of 10. Never skip.
Well done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a I mean, yeah. Well, we reviewed this a couple of weeks ago on the live one. You know, bet you didn't know I could rock and roll. You know, the opening line is kind of like a bit of a statement of intent as a thing. But as you say, it's got those kind of piano noodle, guitar noodle, brass noodles at the beginning before it, you know, cracks into. But you didn't think I knew how to rock and roll. Different. It's got that kind of cool shuffle swing to it. I love the call and response between the guitar and the vocals. Much more kind of traditional kind of blues thing. And I think it's interesting that this is at the end of side 1, where you get more of a traditional blues, you know, what you might expect from Eric, but with the added stuff of, you know, horn sections, got, you know, that muted horn section and piano, and you've got a great solo and a solo to end up with it, you know. And I agree with you, strong vocals. I think, you know, Eric's getting into his stride as a singer, but even if he doesn't think that he is particularly at this point, but I think he does. I think it's I think it's great. I think it's got a great vibe and a great feel, and it's 10 out of 10 from me. Never a skip. Really great track. Mr. Walton.
Yeah, it's an incredible track, isn't it? And as the Rock Professor said, we've spoken about it. It's a manifesto for Clapton. I think I may have got it wrong, folks. I think in my discussion of it, I may have said that it was written by Delaney. I think so. I think I may have. Something's in the back of my mind is burning. If I did on that show, forgive me. I'm correcting it here on this show. But as Brad said, you know, written by Leon Russell. It's a cracker. That false kind of slow start on this track, certainly, and then the bang knocks you off your seat, doesn't it? You know, especially when you've got that amp turned up. Doesn't come across on that live version, Brad, obviously, you know, but boy, you get it on this. It's a favourite that Clapton played right through the 70s for obvious reasons. You know, it's one that everyone can dance to, but it's got that rock blues edge to it. You know, that Clapton is going to go on and do more with. It's a cracker of a song to end side one. You know, he would have been proud. He would have been proud of that performance on this track. Look, I'm giving it a 10 out of 10 too. I can't give it anything less. I love the song. It's one of my favourites.
Yeah. I think, Andrew, it was credited to Clapton Russell.
Okay, so yeah, I think though I may have said Delaney though when I was talking, thinking that in my mind Russell.
Yep.
So
I understand what you're saying now.
Yeah.
Definitely credited to Clapton Russell. Definitely Clapton.
Yeah.
But
time.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I think it's a good opportunity to show some pics. I really dig this album cover because it looks like he can't be bothered being there for the photo shoot.
Okay, just give me 1 second. So I'm just gonna. Oh, where am I? Hold on, folks. Get rid of the comment so it doesn't. So when I remember I would have been 12 years old. And I went to my friend's place, Stephen Downey's, and I wasn't into rock and roll when I was 12. Anyway, his sister Sharon, she had these albums in her room, and we went into her room for something. I don't know what it was. I don't know, to get something. And anyway, hey. And anyway, they records back in the day, and I remember seeing Brad and Simon. This, where is it? Hold on, give me a second. I remember seeing that. No, sorry, Brad. That there. I remember seeing that. That's the cover, and I remember thinking, "Wow." For some reason, I didn't know anything about Eric Clapton, but I remember thinking, "Wow, you like that, Brad?"
I love it because it's like Eric's forcing himself to be there. That's what it looks like. To me, he doesn't look happy there. He doesn't want to be there.
But yeah, it's really interesting. I'm glad you said that because if you go and look, and there's shitloads of them, and I didn't want to put them here on this show, but go and have a look, folks, and look at all the other photos from the session with all the people. Mate, there's about 50 other photos of him smiling. They could have picked one of those, But no, they had to pick this one there, Simon. The rock professor's gone. But yeah, I love that, bro.
Yeah, it's a cool photo. That would have been probably better for the front cover. Let's be honest, but he still doesn't look completely happy there.
Gosh, I love Brownie. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, I love Brownie. I love Brownie more than Blackie. Sorry.
Yeah. It's got a little bit more character, I think, just because of the burst, I think. Yeah. I don't know why. I just liked that picture, but I think that's from 1970, Andrew, around that time frame. So I thought that was a good shot for him. I don't think he plays the Les Paul on this record, but it's a good shot of him in 1970. I'm sure it probably would have been on one of the 3 or 4 albums that we've been discussing earlier on in the piece. I just thought that's it's a good time sort of capsule to look at something like that and go, okay, that's around 1970. He was recording there somewhere. So
yeah, as Derek said in the chat, he was using Strats and Gibsons while he was with Blind Faith and also with Delaney and Bonnie on stage, and there's a lot of photographs of him using that. Hold on, bro. I didn't do this, but I should have done this for you. Give me a second. Oh my lord! Oh my lord!
We'll sing.
Hold on.
It's a very bad idea.
And also, where is it? Holy shit! Sack this guy.
Where's the producer?
Hold on.
Those curly leads are all the rage, Holly. They're all the rage.
Yeah, got to have one. And also he was also playing his Firebird 2 around that time as well.
Yep.
But as Simon and Derek said, you know, he settled obviously for this album. Loved that Strat tone. So that's a pick that I got from him. Famous pick from around that time there. Looking very serious on stage.
Yeah.
There's a pick there of Eric and Delaney at Hurtwood. And it's a little bit interesting, guys. Go and listen to what Bobby Whitlock has to say about Delaney and Bonnie, how they kind of imposed themselves towards the end on Clapton. You know, like we all know that rock and roll is full of time in history where bands get together or elements or individuals get together for a little while and they don't know when it needs to end, you know, and Bobby Whitlock was kind of telling us, you know, that a couple of years ago, you know, that, you know, after this gig, Eric wanted them gone.
Yeah.
And there's a pick there from last week. Remember I said that I was going to get some picks. So this is around the same time, 1970, when they were touring. Look at that. That's Fillmore East in 1970. What a shithole.
That's why it closed, yes. Closed before it fell down.
I know, Simon. So if anybody thought that it was the Ritz or something like that, or this gold-gilded palatial palace...
Think again. Think again.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Think again.
Oh,
yeah. You know, Brad wouldn't been seen dead in a event like that.
Hey,
that's true. That is true. We see the venues you play in,
That's
Dr.
right.
Cook, and we're impressed. We are impressed. All those seats, velvet seats. Yes, we've seen all the pictures.
Listen, back in those days, I would have been more than happy to play in that venue because of the amount of artists that I love and the gigs I've heard from that venue. I would be like, I'd walk into there and I'd try and pick up the DNA off the floor or something. I don't know, off the stage I'm talking about, not the toilet floor or anything, just the stage floor.
Don't dig anymore. Don't dig anymore, Brad.
Ladies and gentlemen, this week's episode of Show Us Your Picks was brought to you by these two handsome fellas.
Geez, that's a handsome young man there.
And Elvis, yes. That was the joke. It had to be done. It had to be done.
Not the old bloke next to him.
Oh dear. Could I just say that Paul Davis wins the prize today for referencing Shawaddy Waddy. That is a top reference for anybody who doesn't know who Shawaddy Waddy is. Look him up. Nicely done.
Well, thanks for showing those photos, Andrew. That was good. It's funny because for some reason when I Googled and looking for pictures of 1970, like recording and stuff like that, not a lot there, Andrew, unless they're hidden or something like that. But normally I'll find pictures very easily of things I'm trying to present. But, you know, I guess I don't have a book collection like you do, Andrew, either. But I'm sure you've probably got some gems there. But, there's not a lot from Eric recording in that period. I really struggled to find. I was hoping to find some good photos, but so obviously they didn't document pictorial-wise too much.
No, and what's Holly's talking about these telephone cords?
Look at that! Yes, look at that.
Yeah, if you're playing this kind of music, Holly, it's imperative to have a curly cord. If you don't have a curly cord, it's not going to work for you.
The problem with those curly cords, Andrew, is that when you've got one, all the other guitarists on the same bill, they all look at your cord, and for some reason at the end of the night, your cord's missing.
Yeah.
So you're better
Also-
off just having, like I do, I just have like run-of-the-mill crappy.
Just take a straight
leads,
chord.
Just a
Yeah.
straight chord. And, mate, I've had the thing for 15 years.
No one pinned. I don't
No
want
one's
that.
nicked
I don't
it.
want that.
Yeah.
I don't want that black chord.
I don't want that.
Let's be fair.
uncool-
Yeah. Let's be fair. If you've got a curly cord, it's going across the stage at waist height, isn't it? It becomes you can kill somebody with it. It's a trip hazard
I'll tell
for
you
the
a funny
lead singer.
story. A funny story. I used to have a curly cord, and I was playing one night, and the thing got wrapped around my leg. You know how the cords sometimes go around your boot,
Yeah.
and they go around the leg. Man, I nearly tripped over so badly. I nearly fell into the crowd, like off the front of the stage, because I couldn't get the damn thing off. Yeah, it was embarrassing because once your leg gets inside the coil, you're stuffed. Yeah, you can't get it off. You got to finish the
Yeah.
song, then wrap it. Anyway, it would have been
It's a
a
two-handed job. Of course,
just imagine.
Eric, Jimi Hendrix played with a curly cord. That's advertising enough.
Oh, look, if Hendrix did it, it's cool.
Oh,
Okay,
dear.
that's all I've got to say.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right, so we get to the next song, track 1
Side
of
two.
side 2. Bottle of Red Wine. What an opener. What a track opener for side 2, yeah? Unbelievable. Starts off with that unison sort of guitar line straight into the duet, you know, with Bonnie. And I love his guitar tone on this track. I think his guitar tone on this song is the best on the album. For some reason, there's something different going on. Whether he's using a different amp or something, I don't know, but it sounds fantastic. The band sounds fantastic, and that driving drum beat holding it together. Some fantastic vocals there from Clapton and Bonnie. They sound fantastic singing together. Some fantastic playing on this track. Clapton's really stretching himself vocally, and with his guitar playing as well. I put here, I actually think Magic was recorded when they captured this, that when they pressed the record button, they captured Magic on this recording. This track is without a doubt one of the highlights of the record, and it's a 10 out of 10 for me. It's never a skip.
Yep.
Simon.
Yeah. I think there's a just I assume it's a slide and an ordinary guitar playing together at the beginning. That's what it sounded like to me. I don't know if that's true, but that's good. Breaks into that kind of shuffle, 12-bar shuffle thing. But you're right. It's the singing is great, and you've got the vocal and the guitar call and response thing. Classic call and response. It's great. Really nice middle eight with the organ as well. And a great solo, and then you get that complete change at 2 minutes 18, where he just go to the CADG bit. You know, it's a complete different set of chords, and then there's they solo under the kind of vocals as well, which is interesting, which is in keeping with that dropping the solo back into the song a bit. But great version, 10 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. Andrew.
Just give me a second, guys, while I just organise my notes. Sorry, I've lost bottle of red wine.
Sorry, sir. Bottle of red wine.
Yeah. Just give me a second while I'm focusing. Bottle of red wine. Again, I'm going to repeat what I mentioned the last time we spoke about this song, written on the way to the studio by Bonnie. By Delaney. And it blew Eric Clapton away that you could write a song so quickly, So that relationship was really, really important. Again, while Eric was quite keen to end it because of a situation that had happened, he was also aware of being in a relationship. Eric Clapton liked to make friends quickly and did that, and then kind of, moved on a bit at that time in his life. Love that backstory. Love the fact that he was introduced into writing a song about a simple thing, Brad, like a bottle of red wine. Musically, it's great. Just give me a second, guys, while I just want to see if I've got the quote here before we go on. I love the song. It's fantastic.
Who doesn't love a bottle of red wine anyway?
Just bear with me, mate. Grab my notes. I'm a little bit
Oh, you're
unprepared.
talking- we should say good morning to Drops, family guy. Morning, Drops. Hope you're good. It's clearly late where you are, so thanks for staying up, joining in, joining in the fun.
So this is what Clapton said about the song in 1970. Bottle of red wine. It's a ballad too. We were going to the studio one day in LA and we had no songs, nothing at all to do. We were getting panicky on the way and we just thought up the song and did it when we got there. It's just a shuffle, you know. So that's what Clapton said about it in 1970. So clearly on the ball. Worried about the lack of songs, Simon. Who needs songs when you can make them up on the way to the studio? 9 out of 10, Simon.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the next song, Loving You, Loving Me. Bit of a mid-tempo country vibe happening on this song, even gospel-y a little bit at times. Nice, like when the chorus kicks in, it's really lovely. You know, I can hear Beatles influence there actually. Some great playing, bit of a mid-tempo sort of, what do you call it? Push. It's not held back. It's got a little mid-tempo push there on the drums. Some great playing by the band on this, and some amazing backing vocals as well. It's for me, it's a well-written song. It's positioned properly on the record, and I gave it 7.5 out of 10. Never a skip. Simon.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, that the thing about this is that very Harrison-esque. I don't know. I just made up that word now. You know, the chorus is very George Harrison, isn't it? And that influence of I don't know where the influence, which way the influence goes, but yeah, it's lovely. I mean, you know, that ear again. I'm mentioning that ear for a melody, you know, of a chorus melody that really makes these things stand out. I like the horn parts as well. I think the horns really, you know, really make these songs in many ways. And towards the end, you've got fantastic backing vocals and horns, and kind of the guitar playing the melody underneath the vocals, as we said, in keeping with dropping the solos back. But great harmonies, great singing, and a great tune. 8 out of 10 from me. Never a skip. And as you say, I was going to say it too, and I will say it, placed properly in the record. You know, we've had the blues thing, you know, the blues shuffle to start, and then we've gone for something different, and I think that's really cool. Andrew.
Originally written for Blind Faith. Blind Faith were going to record it, but they didn't, and I'm glad they didn't record this song. Eric changed it a little bit for him, for his voice, as opposed to obviously Winwood's voice. Weakest song on the album. 6 out of 10 for me, and sometimes a skip.
Whoa.
All right. Well, for me, the next song, I Told You for the Last Time, another strum-along style song for me. Epic background vocals, very gospel vocal feel in the background vocals, like you're in a church and you could imagine the gospel style singing happening there. There's some fantastic musicianship throughout the whole album, and on this song, there's no exception. It's great. Clapton's voice is angelic at times. I'll say that. It's not a bad song. When I was younger, I used to skip this song when I first got the album. Over the years, it's grown on me, and I've grown to like the song a lot more. I gave it 7 out of 10. Never a skip. Simon.
Yeah, I think that it's got the guitar playing between the vocal lines, got the horns, and a kind of choir, almost a choir of backing singers. It's amazing that and I think those things make it make it really good as a song. I like the call and response with the backing singers. That's really good. I too gave it a 7 out of 10, but never a skip.
Yeah,
Andrew.
interesting song, isn't it? Steve Cropper's on guitar, and so obviously, we're not surprised it's got that Stax feel behind it. It's interesting. No solo, Brad or Simon on this album, which again, given that Cropper's on there, maybe they didn't want to give Cropper the solo. I don't know. I always find that quite an interesting or an intriguing proposition. It's an enjoyable song. I've given this a 7 out of 10 too. Definitely never a skip though.
No.
Do you want me to time out?
No.
Yeah. The only reason I used to skip because I think when I first started getting into Clapton, I wasn't really into expecting this sort of thing from Clapton. I wanted to hear more blues. So
Yeah.
It's gospel, isn't it? And,
yeah. So as we know, as you develop and get older, you appreciate musical styles, differently. So up to the next track, which is I Don't Know Why. I love the intro guitar line, very blues influenced. Another great vocal from Eric, a very heartful and emotional delivery. Some lovely guitar playing throughout the song. Vocals, background vocals, all very big. And I think we've discovered already through a lot of the songs on this album that the background vocals are a big part of the song. And that's very apparent on this one. Eric knows how to use his falsetto really well. He's done it on the album. You can really tell on this song in particular, he finds that falsetto point. He's really stretching himself vocally on this album. It's a very catchy song, great melody, catchy chorus. I'll be interested to see what Simon and Andrew have to say about this song. I gave it 7 out of 10 and never a skip. Simon.
Yeah, I think that sort of kind of there's that the thing I bring up quite a lot is that the slightly weaker songs that it's always the one before last on a record, and I think this kind of I think you're right. I think it's quite a lot has very similar elements to the one before it, as the gospel-like feel of the backing vocals, as almost the choir singing with the horns almost as a sort of thing, which I think is really good. But I don't think for me it's not a major song, but I would never skip it, and I give it 7 out of 10. Andrew.
Yeah, it's a remarkable gospel song, isn't it? Certainly Clapton's most emotive vocals on the track. Not his best. He's emotive, in my opinion. He loved playing it live with Delaney and Bonnie. They played it quite a few times live during '69. So the band certainly loved to sing it. And when you take into account where Delaney and Bonnie came from the South, and that gospel kind of style, these guys would have been drenched in it. Bobby Whitlock, the son of a minister, brought up in that whole kind of vibe that they would have got from it live. Would have loved to have heard this song played live back then. And this is the second time where I said that we're going to talk about other mixes. Go and check out Delaney's mix on this. It's fantastic. It's remarkable. Look, I've given this 7.5 Simon and Brad out of 10. I love the song. Great gospel song on behalf of Clapton. Never a skip, Brad.
Yeah, have to agree. All right, so it's been a bit of a journey, this album. We're up to the last song, so Let It Rain. what a fantastic way to end this album. It's a great album. This could also, in my opinion, have been on a George Harrison solo album. Fantastic vocal melody, some great, the band's really cooking on this song. The background vocals are great again. The unison guitar line, which is the hook of the song, repeats itself through the song and really ties in all the different parts of the song. There's some great bass playing on this album, this song as well. I think this is Eric's best vocal on the album, in my opinion. Some great guitar playing. The soloing from Eric is just fantastic. Some great piano playing from Whitlock. The outro part of the song is epic. I gave this my first Brad score, 100 out of 10, never a skip. Simon.
Yes, well, Let It Rain. You're right, and we rank this highly on the Rainbow concert gig as well, and it's a fantastic song. I think it's it has that kind of, I mentioned it before. Basically, it has that kind of Ringo Starr, "It Don't Come Easy" kind of thing that I can always sing along to this melodically. I think less so here than on the Rainbow concert one, but nevertheless, I like there's great organ playing. I should mention that the backing vocals include Jerry Allison and Sonny Curtis from Buddy Holly's The Crickets.
Wow.
Amazingly on this record. But considering he only died about 12 years ago, 12 years before this, in 1958, Buddy Holly died, I think. So basically, it's amazing, isn't it, to think that they were kind of old school. And we think about 12 years, 2011. It's like, God, it's scary, but we should point out that great. But again, fantastic use of those backing vocals and of all over this track. I think Eric sings, as you say, Brad, really well on this. I think it's probably the best vocal performance. Great backing vocals, and it's got that busy bass playing done by Stephen Stills of Crosby, Stills, Nash. So they're all on it, and there's clearly a kind of jam at the end of it. It sort of grinds to a halt, doesn't it? But a great track, great song, great melody. 10 out of 10 for me, never a skip. Andrew.
Yeah, it's a fantastic number, isn't it? And go and check out, the precursors to this song, "She Rides," which is on the anniversary issue, which came out last year as well. Puts this song into real context. And I said that I wasn't going to talk about the remixes, so I haven't. I've just spoken about another version of the song, which became this song. And as the Rock Professor rightly said, we ranked it highly on the live version. This is just an incredible song, isn't it? It's a pop song. It got people dancing. People loved it. He played it right through the 70s. It's the epitome, I think. We've come to the end of this great album with his new Stratocaster, Brad and Simon, and this is the song which nails that Stratocaster tone for me that Clapton's going to go and take on right through the 70s, Brad. And what a exclamation mark he's done with this track. I love it. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful song. As you said, the melody is fantastic. The guitar playing. Look, I've got to give this a Brad score too. It's incredible. They've put the best song on the last track.
They did what Simon always recommends. The Rock Professor's recommendation: put your best song last. Second last song, your crappiest song.
It works for this album, doesn't it? That you put your massively strongest song as the last track on the side, and that's because that's what people remember, not necessarily the track before, which is maybe less epic.
I still stand by the fact the first song should have been, a bit further down the track listing. Either that, great album, and the song order really worked well, despite that first song, in my opinion, where it's positioned. I'm talking about. But thanks, guys, for it's we're on a bit of a Clapton theme, and I just thought this album would be important to cover on our channel.
Yeah, I'm glad you picked it because it's again a defining point. It's the beginning of the Stratocaster era, clearly, and we spoke about that last week, didn't we, when we did the live, the Rainbow concert.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you dovetailed and put this into perspective because it kind of it works in my mind too, Simon. When we go and do some homework on this album, I will ask everybody, if you haven't checked out, now we've finished the rankings, so now we can talk about a little bit of our conclude. Go and listen to some of these other remixes. There's the Tom Dowd one, which is the original one that we're listening to. Eric Clapton did one, and also Delaney did one. So go and check out. And then there's also the anniversary remix. And boy, there are some contrasts.
Yeah,
I'm sure there
Yeah.
are. Yeah, I'm sure there's a
what
lot
I
of
say-
different ways of mixing these songs for sure. There's so
I
much
haven't
in them,
listened-
isn't there?
I haven't listened to this album for a while, so it was actually was good to listen to be honest with you, because
It was a
it's
hot
not
album, bro.
Yeah.
When it dropped, it was a hot album.
Yeah. Well, I used to enjoy the album a lot, and for some reason, these '70s period albums definitely don't get enough, play in my household. I tend to gravitate to other albums, so I'm going to definitely go back and revisit the rest of them.
And there's my
there you go.
tribute brownie
Yep.
with
now
the
that
Domino's
you're,
guitar strap. The Derek and the Domino's guitar strap.
While you're got that guitar, Andrew, you want to talk a little bit about it and explain what you've done to it?
So this is 2020 Player Series body
Yep.
that I took a bit of the shine off, relicked it a little bit, made it look a little bit older, and I swapped the neck with a 1990 Stratocaster that I've got. Well, yeah. So
I
that
remember,
that's not Andrew
Correct,
relicked. That's real.
Yeah.
That's real, and you can see there by the serial number there too. If you read the serial number, you can see that it's a 1990.
Right.
So that's my tribute to with the 5 springs, Brad, blocked.
What have you done? Any electrical changes like pickups?
No.
Anything like
No. That's the standard Player Series pickups.
and
Bro,
it puts you in the ballpark for that tone.
Perfect with a Fender amp. Perfect.
Yeah.
Why change it?
Yeah, well, that's all right. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
That's my motto.
Yeah, you got it. But yeah, bro, thank you for picking this album because I love it. It's a great album. It's a great statement, Simon. People wanted to be involved in it. Delaney and Bonnie certainly thought that this was going to be something that they were going to be part of with Clapton's future, which I didn't know anything about. So go and check out. In fact, what I might do, if you're watching a replay, I may go and I'll find Bobby Whitlock's video and attach it to here where he talks about how Eric wasn't taking calls from Delaney.
Yeah.
When they were forming Derek and the Dominoes. He didn't want that big band perspective anymore, Brad. He just wanted to have a small band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the Derek and the Dominoes thing was probably, where he stretched it. Dane come in on guitar as well. Had a lot going on there, and I think maybe he decided from that point it was time to, strip it back a little bit. But he likes to change things up a lot too, Andrew, and he's done that his whole career.
Yeah,
he doesn't like to stick to one thing, So, God bless him for changing things around, and sometimes he probably upset people along the way. But that's you get that on big jobs, they say.
Awesome.
I think that you've come at this from different. If you've come back, it's a bit before my time. This, so I wasn't hugely regarded at the time. I don't think because it's that difference in the sound and that transition away from a sort of power trio blues thing, or even Blind Faith, but away from that, I don't think it was hugely regarded at the time. But actually, going back and listening to it now, I think it's a great record, and has a great sound and great songs as well. And you can't disguise the fact if it's got great songs, they will come through. So I've really enjoyed.
I think it did well, Simon. I think it did well.
Oh, it sold well. Sold well.
Especially in some parts of the States, it sort of, certainly Let It Rain as a single helped push the album. The usual story, you got to have a great single, and Let It Rain certainly caught the imagination of, the Sun, the Sun people, the hippie people, and all that, and yeah.
Although Let It Rain wasn't released as a single until 1972. She's like 2 years after.
Yeah, I think a couple of the record stations though played it as.
Did they play it like a single? Lead track of it. Yeah.
Because they'd worked out. Oh my gosh, because it fitted into that whole kind of ethos. That was still around, even though Woodstock had finished. We're talking about 1970. It was only a couple of years. It's still humming. Altamont hadn't completely killed it all.
No, fortunately.
So we're going to be here next week, the Rock Professor and I, talking Tina Turner. Come back and join that party. Let us know your favourite Tina Turner story, your favourite Tina Turner song. We're just going to get together. We'll have a couple of picks and all that, and we'll just talk about our experiences with Tina Turner's music for an hour or so. Who's got the pick for the album the week after?
I think it's you, Dr. Walton. Because I did last week, didn't I? Because I did Cricklewood Green last week.
Yes.
Brad this week. It'll be you.
Yes.
Got 2 weeks to tell us what you're doing.
Yeah, I might pick a free album.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I know that you and I and Brad, we've done a free album. We did the live, didn't we? We did the live album.
Yeah. Have a think about it.
Yeah, I think I might pick a free.
I think I've got a good idea for the people in the chat for next week. Well, I'm not here with the Tina Turner special. Pick 5 of your favorite Tina Turner songs and put them in the chat so we can see what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Give us 5 tracks that you love of Tina Turner in the chat. That would be amazing. Just to see where everyone's head's at with Tina Turner, because her career span is massive. There's a lot of turns, there's a lot of changes, a lot of different styles. So yeah, she's got some wonderful music.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to play one video that I know won't get us in trouble.
We're renowned for getting into trouble playing other people's videos.
So Paul's saying, "Oh yes, please, free." Okay, we'll pick a free. We better give Cost some love.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's been a pleasure hanging out with you guys. I'm going to ask the Rock Professor, and then Brad's going to do the final roll call. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, if you come this far and you're watching on a replay, we really appreciate you hanging out with us. We don't take any of your support, any of your comments for granted. Honestly, we do talk about the support that we get. It means a lot to Brad and I and the Rock Professor. We're just fans hanging out. Please subscribe to us. If you want to use us to promote any of your own personal projects that you're working on, get in touch with us. We'll do that too, won't we? Happy birthday, Hoss.
Happy birthday, Hoss. Yeah. Much love to you. Much love to you, mate. I want to thank everyone for joining us. If you haven't subscribed to anyone that was new in the chat, please do so. Everyone in the chat, whack those thumbs up. I hope you enjoyed today's show. So we've got Johnny Heartbreaker, Jazz Thunder, Jim. We have Phil Byers, Ellen Toll, my mother. She's there. We have Gretch Zeppelin, Derek Clapton. I still reckon it's Eric Clapton, Derek. I still reckon you're Eric. I hope you don't get offended by us saying that. We're just mucking around. Holly Lewis, thanks for joining us. Some I don't know, some weirdo called Simon Williams. I think we're going to have to block him. Yeah, some other weirdo called Brad Cook. Yeah, he's got to go. It's
The backdoor man.
Change there. James Stewart, thanks for joining us. We have had a lot of chats happening here, which is fantastic. We'd love to see that. We're Paul Davis. We have John ZD351, our brother in arms there. Thank you for joining us. We have Crappy Luxury. It's been great to have you on. KXM Rock, thank you for joining us. We also have Tim Thomas. I think Tim Thomas dropped in for a bit there.
Yeah.
We have, there's a lot of chats here. I wasn't as prepared as this week as last week. Everyone in the chat. There's a lot of comments from everyone, which is fantastic. We'd love to see it. I'm just going through. Have I missed anyone, guys? I think I've got Jim. I've covered Jim. Anyone that I've missed, I do apologize, but thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you guys on board, and we look forward to. I'll be in the chat probably when you guys are going live next week. I'll probably just hang out in the chat because I'll probably be in the airport or something. You know?
Right.
Yeah, so I might jump in and just do it. I might even gate crash at some point and just jump in for a couple of minutes and
I'll free you the link.
Yeah, if I can. If I'm sitting at an airport, I'll do it for a bit of a laugh. Yeah, but that's it, guys. And there's some other dude called the 5150 Show. We're gonna block him. He's no good. Drops Family Garden.
We should
Drops
say.
Family Garden. And I think that's it, guys. So thank you, everyone. Giannis Halberg. I'm just scrolling right to the bottom as I'm talking. I'm getting better at this. I'm talking as I'm scrolling and looking at names.
So you can do 3 things at once.
I can do more than 3 things, mate. I play possum, mate. I make out that I can't.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Andrew, do you want to quickly talk about the show you're doing next Saturday night before ours on Sunday with Dave Spector and Co? Is that happening next 4th? Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's no disrespect to those guys, but I hadn't thought about it. But yeah, go and have a look at our shows coming up, folks, on the channel. Yeah, we're going to have some people join us, and we're going to talk Fleetwood Mac. So if you love Fleetwood Mac, Peter Green, all things Fleetwood Mac, Peter Green, come and join the party. It'll be great to hang out with those guys and see what they've been doing. Yeah. And that's going to be on a Sunday, which is a Monday my time, because Monday's a public holiday. Because So yeah, go and check it out.
Yeah. And for anyone that likes catching up with Art Menenzies when he come on, he'll be coming on again soon in a couple of weeks. So I've forgotten what date we said, Andrew, but we'll announce it.
Cool.
Right. All right, guys. Take care. Everyone in the chat. See you next week. Tina Turner. Take it away, Eric the Orchestrator.